And I guess this means I'm live. Okay, so I want everybody, if anybody is listening, I don't know if anyone is, bear with me here. This is the first time I've done this. If I can't see anything or hear anything, I'm working on it. So I wanted to start by doing a little bit of housekeeping. There's a video coming out tomorrow on how to make a schedule for your renovation project using Google Calendar. And I worked on that to give you a free option to help you organize how your project's going to go, the time it's going to take, to give you an idea of the finish line, some of the precursor steps along the way of what to know to do as things get going before you get started, right? There's a lot of work that needs to happen before you get started. Now, the other thing that I did this morning, I recorded a video with Ben Bates from Advanced Basement Systems about basement waterproofing. So I'll be working on that. That'll probably come out in a week or so. And then that I found out a lot of interesting stuff that I did not know about basement waterproofing this morning, which was one of the signs of you have moisture in your basement is a lot of spider webs. And Ben mentioned that around wooden windows, especially, you get a lot of seepage. So for me, as somebody who's a general contractor, I do know a little bit about a lot, and there are some things that, and this is the reason you hire a subcontractor, is they are experts in that area. So Ben does waterproofing systems and he has a YouTube channel. He's in Chatham, Kent. We had kind of done a little back and forth, and it was a conversation I really enjoyed and got a lot out of. And we kind of got sidetracked with other things because, you talk to other people who run a business and things kind of get interesting. But then it was a lot of the technical stuff, a lot of things people want to know, signs of efflorescence, etc. I'll also probably at some point upload this live stream if anybody has any questions, as my dog is trying to get out of the office. Give me a second. So I'm going to be trying to upload more and more content about basements and eventually getting to the how to's, how to install a door, how to install baseboard. I have my own basement project that I have to work on, and I'll be using a lot of that to talk about tools, to talk about techniques. I have to put in, or I don't have to, but I'm going to put in a tankless hot water system, which I love. The on demand systems, which I had in my previous house. As you can look around, this is my de facto office, spare bedroom. You see the laundry and stuff over here. And there's a lot of little features that I'm going to put in. It's going to be a rental, a basement apartment, and I will go over a lot of the areas as to how to legalize a basement apartment in Ontario. There's a lot of illegal ones. Illegal is the wrong word, unregistered, that kind of stuff. So I'll be going over a lot of steps within that my own project, which I'll be working over the next few months and trying to get a lot of that stuff up. What I've learned over time is you take on projects and you want to film a lot of stuff, and it's really hard to make project progress in the project and make progress in building content for something. And I don't want to do something that's just, hey, look, there's a camera here and I'm doing a voiceover. I'd like to do something that's a little more constructed and informative. So I did a lot of the whiteboard stuff in the beginning. And as we get into more of the technical, how to hang a door, how to install trim, etc., I'll probably be pairing the whiteboard episodes and the actual physical how-to episodes with all the techniques involved so that people can get a little warm-up, a precursor, and maybe understand that, and then have the video of me doing it at the same time. So let's talk about in the title, I talk about DIY paralysis. I have a friend here in Guelph who asked me to kind of be a consultant. He said, "Look, I'll pay you for your time. I want to do my own basement, but I don't know where I'm going to have a lot of questions. Can I hire you to come by and show me how to do things?" Right. So a lot of it is the planning stages. His father-in-law is a former contractor, we'll say. So he's not doing all of the work. He's having people help him, but he doesn't know the steps. So a lot of what my channel is currently is the early on steps. And Sylvain, who is our kids go to school together, and he's asked me to do this. Very smart guy, very educated, intelligent, and he has gone down the rabbit hole of research. And this is why I called it the DIY paralysis. He has researched so much, and there's an energy grant that he applied for, and he's trying to maximize that energy grant. And he wants to get the best insulation value possible for the dollar amount. So he's thought about spray foam. He's thought about fiberglass. He's thought about upgrading to 6-inch fiberglass and framing 2x6 walls. He's thought about doing rock wool as opposed to fiberglass. And he went around and around in a loop. And I'd gone over to the house. We had talked about it. He was still thinking about it. And then he called me, and we were on the phone for maybe 45 minutes talking about this. And I said, dude, you're it feels like you're paralyzed by all this research you've done. He says, I'm totally paralyzed. He's like, I want to get the most out of this that I can, but at the same time, I don't know which is the best option. So I kind of explained to him, you're looking at based on what you're doing, sort of single digit percentage differences in the two or three different options. Rock wool is certainly going to have a more water resistant quality should you have any moisture in your walls. So if that's your choice, going 2x6 versus 2x4 isn't going to benefit you a ton in terms of physical, like financial savings, because you're going to pay more for the 2x6 lumber. You're going to pay more for the 2x6 insulation. It's going to be more work as you do it. It's going to be tougher to do. So how much do you think you're really going to save on a month to month basis? Is it going to offset the extra couple $1,000s that you're putting in? Probably not. So we approached it from that. But I think this is common where you always want to do the optimal, the best. And Sylvain had inspection for his electrical. He had a family member come in and do the electrical, and he's like, okay, I have to get a permit for this. Yeah, you can get a permit, the ESA, no problem. Not hard to do. He went and got the permit. He had the inspection, and but prior to the inspection, he was really, really worried that it wasn't going to work out, that there were going to be mistakes. And I kind of broached it to him in a different way. And I said, look, let's say you're writing a paper, you're typing away on your computer, and you make a mistake. And all you do is you hit the delete button and you type over again. Well, if the wires are run in the wrong place, yes, it does cost money, but all you have to do is rewire it, right? You could do it. You came this far. You understand how to do it. You just fix it. It's like hitting the delete button. It's not a big deal. The big deal isn't that you got it wrong and you're going to have a reinspection. The big deal is that you're going to take the time to get it right. And then you just keep moving forward. It's not always going to be linear, especially if you're somebody who doesn't do this every day. So he was kind of taking it as something about the value of himself as a person, right? That, oh my God, we're going to get this wrong. And I understand, when I ran a company, at a business partner, we had tons of projects on the go, and you want to get everything right. And you have bad days. You have employees, and sometimes things don't go well. Sometimes they have bad days. Sometimes they don't show up. You get worked up. And my business partner had actually been in the military, and he had gone to Afghanistan. And in the end of those tough days, he really put a lot of things in perspective for me, because he would say, did anybody get shot at today? Did anybody die? No. Okay. It's a good day. We'll pick it up again tomorrow. We'll fix it. It's not a big deal. We'll be okay. Right. And it wasn't diminishing that we wanted to do a good job, or that we made mistakes. It was just putting in perspective, like, we'll fix it. It's okay. Nobody died. It's not a statement of value of who we are as a person. We are trying to do our best. Sometimes it doesn't always work out. Sun comes up tomorrow, and you just reassess and go at it. So if you are somebody in one of these projects who is just Googling every single thing and trying to find out as much as you can to get your basement project to be as perfect as it can be, great. but don't beat yourself up over the things you don't know or the things you get wrong. I see a lot of my feed ends up being a bunch of these renovation channels. They start shipping stuff out, and there's one that says, video that got posted said professional drywall results made easy, and I just thought, dude, board and taping is one of the hardest things, and if they're misleading you into thinking that you're gonna take these little techniques and have a perfect professional job, that's not real. And you shouldn't beat yourself up if that's your expectation and you don't reach that. You're getting here. You're going to accomplish something you've never accomplished before if you've never done this. And that's something to be proud of. And along the way, just keep it in perspective. You've never done this before. You've never run a marathon before. You're not going to do it in record time. You know what I mean? So I wanted to put that out there as I'm starting to deal with more and more people who are doing things themselves. I have another person who's reached out to me and asked, "Hey, can you consult for me on this project? I have a basement apartment that I want to do." And I was like, "Yeah, no problem. Like, happy to do it." And so shout out to Kennedy. He's going to be sending me some questions, and we're going to be booking a call and that kind of stuff. So it's super fun for me to be able to help people that way and help them get their projects done. And I've done it before with some subscribers and really enjoyed it. And I find it really rewarding to help those kind of people. And hopefully, I can use that content that's coming forward, those questions and problems and solutions to help other people. So, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to answer some questions that I got in the comments, and then I'm going to talk about a couple of other things at the end. So, I did something in one of the videos. I talk about renting tools, right? You don't have to buy tools, you can rent them. And the viewer kind of said, you probably should think not about renting tools because what if you don't know how to use it and things go wrong and then you got to rent it again and you're wasting extra money? That is a very, very valid point. Now, typically renting the tools doesn't cost that much. The next step up from that is the subscriber suggested, going and buying a cheaper version of the tool, and then you don't spend as much money and it gets the job done. I am personally not an advocate for buying lower quality tools at a cheaper price because they definitely do not work as good as the better quality tools. I'm not saying you got to go buy top shelf, but if you're going to buy, let's use a hammer drill for example. I'm going to go buy a DeWalt or a Bosch hammer drill as opposed to a store brand hammer drill. I will not use any names because I don't want to disparage any brands or judge anybody. But I would buy something that is reliable that I can use again, or more importantly, that I can resell and get some of my money back. Yeah, I'm not going to get what I paid for, but and this is actually a different subscriber responding to a different item in one of my videos and not responding to the other person. So it's always interesting to see sometimes if I look at some of the comments, whether questions are the same for on similar videos or if there are people actually answering within that community. Now you do get, I had one guy get in the comments and be like, "Yo, bro, stop talking about finances and get to the actual finishing. Goodbye." And I was like, "Well, then, thanks for stopping by. At least you watched a little bit and I appreciate it." But we will get to the how to stuff. What I find is you can find other people who will tell you how to frame a wall or how to hang a door. You don't have somebody saying, "Look, if you want to get through your project and have a successful outcome and experience, there's a lot of work that goes into the beginning of trying to plan this and get it to work that saves you a lot of stress. And when you're not stressed, you can focus on the task at hand. You can focus on what's in front of you. So I have talked in the previous video, and I'll probably talk about it a bunch, is taking everything out of your brain, putting it into a document, onto a plan, onto paper, so that when you are framing your walls or installing your floor, you can then focus on doing that thing and not be thinking, okay, once I got the floor done, then I got to do the doors. And when am I going to order the doors? And what about this? No, you can focus on doing a good job on the floor, and that's done. I'll say this again. I look at my brain like a box. There's only so much space in that box. I cannot stuff it with more stuff. So if I can take some stuff out of it and I'm not swimming in my head and there's fewer things for me to focus on, that lowers my stress level. It also gives me a greater sense of control of the project itself. If I don't have to worry about when am I scheduling electrical and all of this, and I've already put that somewhere, I can just pull it up on my phone and go, hey, look right there, bang, electrical's in 2 weeks. I got time. You know what I mean? That is a big deal to me. So, yes, we are going to get to how to hang a door, how to tape. We'll do a little bit about drywall because drywall is those things where, yes, conceivably, it is not complex. However, that does not imply that it's easy, right? I pay attention to the stock market. The concept of the stock market is simple: buy low, sell high. Well, if it was easy, we'd all be rich. However, it is not easy. It is simple, but not easy. So I look at drywall and a lot of this stuff that way. Inform yourself, get it, but don't go into it thinking that what's in some of these videos that's being pushed to you is going to be easy peasy. Like it's going to look like a pro did it. It's not going to be. So, another question or comment I got that I was looking at, I did a piece and talking about quotes and that a quote can be anywhere from 4 to 10 hours, right? Well, that takes into account a number of things. And Ben and I, in the conversation today about basement waterproofing, talked about sort of his pre-construction process and what it means to quote things. There's a lot of time that goes into quoting, a lot of creating, a lot of exploring, and like how much do things cost, especially now with prices moving so quickly. No one is doing fixed price cost. Everything is moving. A lot of the contractors I know here in Guelph, the good ones, they're booking for 2024. And there is no way they can quote a project a year away and have that price be valid, right? They are giving people like a budget for consideration and saying, if look, if things continue where they are, your price is going to be in and around X dollars. Are you comfortable with that? And then they sign a piece of paper, and then at some point they get a retainer or deposit of a portion of that. There isn't going to be going forward, or at least until prices stabilize and inflation and all these factors, the labor markets start to level out, that at least the contractors I know are not going to be doing fixed cost contracts anymore. It's all going to be what's called cost plus, or time and material, however you want to look at it, because they are not in the business of losing money. They are in the business of making money, and right now there's no stability in terms of pricing. That's just not going to happen. So giving that part of our headspace is quotes. If you think about it, I'm going to go to your house and I'm going to be there for an hour or two. Then I'm going to get back to the office, and I covered this in the video before. And I hope if you go and watch the one on the pre-construction process, that'll really give you an idea of how much work goes into me or any contractor getting you a price. It's not as simple as I look at a pricing matrix, I punch a button, and up it comes. I have to calculate how much square footage drywall, which means ceilings, walls, bulkheads. I got to think about how much extra framing I have to do. I got to think about how I'm going to clean it, when it's going to go to the dump, who's going to take care of that. There's a lot that goes into the quoting process that people don't see. What you want as somebody getting quotes is how to understand them, right? I talked to Ben today about how he does his quotes. So we did our quotes as line items, and each individual line had a price attached to it. Whereas we'll say for waterproofing, he cannot remove a part of the waterproofing system that he is quoting as easily. If you're putting in a sump pump and there's no weeper tile, he can't he can't say, well, the sump pump is this much and the weeper tile is this much. Do you want to change some of that? No, it all goes together. So what he has is the scope of work, and then there's a price at the bottom. And the reason for that is a couple of things. And Chris Doe of the Future, he touches on this in a video about pricing for marketing. What it is, one of the reasons people do this is if it's very broken down, it allows people to continually challenge it. Like, oh, how much are materials? How much are labor? None of your business. Like what I pay my employees, what it is you are trying to tell me I want to pay less. And I think there's room inside your cost for me to save money. Well, why do I want to work with you if you're going to cut my money? If the implication is that I'm stealing from you, that I'm overcharging, then don't hire me. I don't want to work for that, right? But if you're of the understanding, look, this is quality work, your expectation for what the contractor delivers at that price is higher, right? We are talking with a contractor friend of mine who wants to do some multimedia stuff. And what we wanted to talk about with regards to his business is finding a better path to a customer experience that creates a reasonable expectation for outcome and experience, right? You want to feel that the project that you are part of the project, that you are not a bystander just handing over checks. You want transparency, you want communication. Oftentimes in the industry of construction and renovation, the people running the business can be very good at the work, very good at executing. The soft skills of communication, of transparency, of billing, they are not skilled at that. I talked about that with Dev in the video about why people are afraid of contractors. I forget the topic now, but again, you're weary, right? Trust is a big factor. Trust is built, and Ben, who I talked to today, had an amazing process where he has all this content and all these videos, documentation, follow ups from staff. When they sign things, here's a document about what you should read, what your responsibilities, what ours are. Here's the process for your specific task. I was super impressed with how he had built out that aspect of his business. However, he's second generation. His parents started the business, and he has, over the years, added to all these layers for a better customer experience along the way. If you're going to hand out $20,000 to $25,000 for waterproofing, you want to feel like the person you're paying is going to educate you. You don't want to get bummed out, right? And just feel like you're on the sidelines. You're part of this. You're not just somebody handing over a check. So that was one thing. Um, Going forward, I'm going to really try to do more content and on a regular basis. I've got a list of like 30 videos to do. Some of it is, say, how to get a permit in Ontario. Others are the 5 or 6 tools that I really can't live without for any project. So as I get going on my project, I'll start illustrating that. I'll probably do a walkthrough in the beginning of what my steps in the project is and what I have to do. I'm going to be talking to a mortgage broker about how to finance your project. That's probably going to be next month in February. I'll have that up and the different options because I just finished 2 basement projects over the last 5 months, right? Just random footage. Really an obstacle to producing content is having to get the project done in a good amount of time. So I couldn't really say, look, your project's going to take an extra, month because I'm going to figure out how to record all this stuff and get all my B roll. But just to give you an idea of cost, just dollar amount from a transparency standpoint, I did one basement, 940 square feet. It was for a friend of mine. And that one came in at about $75,000. So 950 square feet. That's under $100 a square foot. Now, the reason being his being cheaper was the perimeter walls were all drywalled, insulated, and the electrical run. So that saved him a big chunk. He didn't have to frame the perimeter walls. He didn't have to run the receptacles. He didn't have to hang the drywall. What we had to do was drywall the ceiling and drywall the new divisions. So that project, had he not had the framing and all that stuff, probably would have been closer to 85 or 90 grand. And that still feels cheap. Like that's still under $100 a square foot. I did another project down the street for a friend of his that I really enjoyed working for as well. That one was an 1,150 square foot basement. That one came in probably close to 100 grand. We're talking Canadian dollars. So still, again, under 100 dollars a square foot, but that's a lot. I mean, you're gonna save a little bit on the huge, like, you're not running receptacles through the middle of the room. Like, the bigger it is, the sometimes your square foot price can kind of drop if it's not super fancy, right? None of these were basement apartments or had kitchens or any of that, right? Very simple. And that's I guess one of the conversations I had with the homeowner who's actually going to come on here, and we're going to talk about one of his experiences with regards to what you do when a subcontractor's work is not up to par. We just dealt with that. He's a great guy, but uh, the expectation when you finish a basement is it's just a big room, right? It's not a kitchen or a bathroom. There aren't super sexy things in it. It's just a big room, and it often just turns out how it's supposed to turn out in your brain. If you're to meet the expectation is it's supposed to be a room with a door, with trim, floor. It's just supposed to look like a big room or a couple of big rooms. It's really not that thrilling, you know? Maybe you pick a paint color you like. Maybe the floor is really nice, but it just looks like another room in your house. And the client I had, Scott, he was super pumped. He's like, "Yeah, it looks awesome." And his wife is just like, "Yeah, it looks good." And the reality was, it looked like it was supposed to look in her head. It's like, "Yeah, this is how I thought it would look." I mean, I guess the fanciest thing they put in was an electric fireplace. So, to get an idea of cost of all these things going forward, $100 a square foot probably isn't realistic. I can do that because I have low overhead. I have no overhead. And I pick and choose who I work for. And I work, like, I never work more than 20 minutes from my house. So it makes my life real simple. I don't know if I've said this before. I got two little boys. My goal when I left my company was I can either take them to school or I can pick them up from school, and that's it. So I would make a terrible employee. That's not just because of my hygiene standards that I don't shave. All that being said, if this helped you, if you're listening and you wanted to ask a question, please do so. Or in the future, I'm going to try to do one of these at least once a month. I'm going to try to do it for about three to 6 months, at least once a month, and I will, from the video content or just things I'm thinking about that I don't think are really warranted in a video, I will probably try to jump on and see how it goes with this stuff. So, if anybody has any questions, please ask. Otherwise, I guess we're just going to wrap this up. My wife and kids are trying to be really quiet right now because I told them I was doing this. And I really appreciate support in this. And I appreciate your support as viewers or subscribers or people who are getting something out of this. So, oh, awesome. Oh, wow. Okay. There's a lot of questions. All right. Let me read these. Vinyl laminate engineered hardwood. Demo started a year and a half ago. Okay. Yeah. That's pretty normal. You don't want to come home and work on your house. Then you would tend to use self lever or floor patch. What tricks to you using those? When you're using floor patch, the floor patch dries really quickly. It's going to dry in like 20 minutes. So if you have a small area to deal with, it's going to be super cakey. It's going to dry really hard. It's going to bond really well to it, but it should only be used for something that is like, I don't know, less than half an inch. It'll say on the directions, but it has to be less than half an inch. So if you have small areas of dips from the subfloor, floor patch is a good way because then you can floor patch the areas and go around. Now, if you're going to put engineered hardwood, are you going to glue it? Are you going to nail it? Or is it going to float? The engineered hardwood is thicker and tends to click when you walk on it, even with the furniture on it, depending on how big your space is. So the my flooring guy was talking about two different kinds of laminate flooring. So there's the vinyl click that's out, and they've kind of moved away from the thinner vinyl click, like the 6 or 8 mil, because being so thin, they move a lot more and the joints separate. We used to use what's called the Bollier Playa line, and it would separate like after about 6 months, I had it in my house, it would start to separate. So they are starting to use something that's much, much thicker. In my project at my house, I'm going to use a wood based laminate, which is what he was saying, recommending, that has vinyl in it. So it is waterproof. So I will be running that through the kitchen that's down there and the bathroom. And it comes in bigger planks, but you can't cut it with a knife. You got to cut it with a circular saw. If your budget is $4 to $5 per square foot, I don't know if that's Canadian or American. In Canadian dollars, that's not going to be enough. The one I'm looking at is like 650 a square foot. Do I want to pay that? No, I don't want to pay that. Is it worth it from a longevity standpoint because I don't want to pay to do it again in 10 years? That is my hope. And so $4 to $5 a square foot if you're in the States, maybe that's enough. I don't know. I much prefer going to, and this is one of the topics, I guess we can get into it right now. I prefer going to a specialty flooring company and talking to them than going to Home Depot or Lowe's or any of those. Because while the people there at those big box stores want to help you, they do not have the expertise that, say, somebody at a flooring specialty place has. They're going to be able to discuss in more detail what product might be best for you. And if you're going to install it, then they may have some tips, right? To say, look, if you're going to buy your floor from us, hey, let me give you some pointers on what you should and shouldn't think about when you're putting it down. Or this product would be better than this product. At some point, you got to trust somebody. You're east of the GTA. Okay. So like Bowmanville kind of area. What brands of laminate? I use Bollier Playa. Um, Let me get the specs and I can message those to you. Pickering. Okay. I use Sarmazian flooring is who I use out here, but they're only out here. I will get that because I'm gonna have to buy it in the next 2 to 2 months. So I will find that and I will send that to you if that works for you. Um, $4 to $5 is going to be. Oh, is the product going to be? Do you need it to be waterproof? That's another question. Um, you want it to be a little bit thicker, so I would try to stay away from engineered because it's going to be a ton more work. Yeah, I would highly recommend if you're going to use engineered, using either an adhesive or a nailing pattern to get it down because it's great. It's gorgeous. You could refinish it. It's sexy. At the same time, there's a durability question, and you're going to have a ton of moisture if you don't have some type of humidification system attached to your furnace. The end result may not be what you want, especially if you're not going to use an adhesive. The adhesive will kind of maybe keep it a little bit, but you may have to either think about having a dehumidifier or having a humidification system depending on the situation in your house. And that is usually the humidification system will be attached to your furnace. Uh, they used to be like 400 or 500 bucks, but what they are now, I don't know. I have to put in a new furnace as well, which is awesome. So one of the offers right now, if you're putting in a new furnace, is they will give you a free humidification system. I don't know how that helps me, but anything free, I'm all for. So I will look into that for you, Dave and Karen, and I will find out what that is, and I will message you. Do you have any other questions? Floor drains. Where I live in Ontario, floor drains are a requirement. So if you have a flood, ideally you want your floor drain in your utility room. You want it where because what's going to leak is the furnace. You have a condensate that comes out of your furnace, a little white pipe, And that little white pipe typically goes into the floor drain so that it goes somewhere. As the seasons change, you get humidity within the system, etc. How do I work around it? There is a great, you need access to that floor drain. It is unsexy. It is not the greatest thing in the world. There are grills. So if you are putting in, say, a laminate floor, you will have to, with a hole saw or a jigsaw, put a hole in and have the grill on top, because the last thing you want to do is bury that drain. And if water backs up from the sewer system, right, from the main road, and you don't see it, it's going to be underneath your floor. And now you're going to have problems there. Is it ideal? No. If you, in my scenario, I bought my in law's house, and the person who renovated and put the unregistered apartment in put the kitchen where the utility room is and covered the floor drain with tile. My hope is when I remove the tile that the drain will be usable. The reality probably is they filled that drain with concrete, and now I'm going to have to smash it up all the way to the utility room to put the floor drain in the utility room, costing me a few G's more, or, a lot of pain and suffering on my part with a jackhammer. So you you kind of just have to live with them. Basements are one of those things where you're not going to move beams, you're not going to move duct work, you're not going to move floor drains because it costs too much. So you have to make some compromises on the aesthetic to make it work. So you don't want to remove the drain by any means unless you're going to relocate it somewhere. But when they pour the foundation, they then will have the floor slope to it. So try to figure out if you can frame your walls where the floor drain ends up inside the um, the utility room, because the floor is going to slope to that drain. You, Karen and Dave, you have a decent sized electrical panel upgraded to. How do you tend to frame those to and try to hide them? I literally put them in a closet. If you're going to build a cabinet for that electrical panel, I've heard people like go buy an IKEA cabinet and then cut the back off it and put it in there. You could do that. However, it's not the greatest. Typically, I just put build a closet in front of it and put a door. It's cheaper than trying to build a DIY like cabinet that doesn't look like crap. One of the other things people do is they'll frame it out and they'll just hang a picture over it, and then they remove the picture. That's one thing. You have a poorly DIYed bathroom in my basement from previous home, bad raised floor, bad false walls, leaky whirlpool tub. Basically, haven't used in several years. Am I getting ready to remodel? I would say so. It sounds like you are. Sounds like you're afraid of it and you don't want to use it, and it would make sense. Um, it is my first move to get a mold assessment from a professional to find out how much I will need to rip out completely. If you have issues looking at it from the outside, imagine what's on the inside of those walls. Imagine how the plumbing must be done. So my first assessment would be, if you don't have any smells or there isn't a ton of moisture, would be to open the wall and take a look. And just for peace of mind, more than likely you are taking it out. That would be, but have a look first. Have a plumber come in and look at it. Maybe that's the first thing. If the plumbing's okay and the aesthetic sucks, awesome. Then you're just dealing with aesthetic. But if the plumber comes in and goes, dude, I don't know how this is vented, there's no mixing valve, like all these things, now your urgency level probably goes up. Thoughts on cast iron pipe lifespan? I have cast iron under my basement floor. Used to have a toilet down there, plus for the built in 46. Don't want to replace my sewer pipes. No, nobody wants to replace my sewer pipes. Nobody does. Those are awful. What you can do, again, have a plumber come by, have him bring a camera, have him ask in your neighborhood, ask around, say, hey, have you guys had issues with your cast iron pipes? If they have, great. The camera is going to be the issue. If the water's still going away, I mean, you could have cracks in it from the house to the street where where there's roots and stuff in it. Uh, you don't know. So how if you really want to go the extra mile, you want to feel safe, find a local plumber who's worked a lot in your area and say, "Can you come out? I want to look at I want to know about my pipes." Or just have a conversation with them on the phone. See, is this something I need to be worried about? Can I pay somebody to come out and inspect? Like, can I get a service call just to have somebody out here? Because you want to value their time. If you don't value their time, they won't want to talk to you, right? It's really like if your boss said, "Hey, I want you to come into work, but I'm not going to pay you. I want your expertise, but it's on a Saturday and we don't pay people for Saturdays." You probably wouldn't do that. Um, I got a couple more minutes to plus wanted them to match. Yeah, that makes sense. Other questions? Anybody else have anything? Feel like there's a whole bunch of people who jump in. All right. With that, I'm going to say thank you for everybody who asked the question. And these give me some good food for thought to look at. Um, David and Karen, I will look at that stuff for you. But you're around your electrical panel, it's hit or miss. I've had to build cabinets around them and I've eaten my socks on it because you're trying to build custom doors, you're going to build all that. So if you have a size that works, see if there's a local cabinet company or something and then see what works. Thank you very much. I really appreciate you saying that. I get a kick out of the fact that what's in my brain can help people that I don't even know or can't even see. So, on that note, everyone, thank you so much. You guys have a great day, and I'll see you on the next one. Good luck on your project.